TPO Rankings.
Hello and welcome to round 20 of the TPO Rankings show, a show where Jake and I talk Australian football through the lens of the TPO Rankings. You can think of it like the FIFA World Rankings, but for 362 Australian football clubs. Jake joins me. How are you this evening, Jake?
Excellent, Cody. I'm very well, thank you. How are you going?
Yeah, doing all right, thank you. Thank you for asking. So, Jake, tonight usually we kick things off and we review the games that we previewed the week before. We didn't preview any games last week, but of course there was still plenty of football to be had around the country, and that means the rankings was obviously impacted. Jake, what are some movements in the rankings?
Yep, there's a number of big movements here, Cody, and I'll start with the biggest one, which is that Heidelberg are no longer the highest-ranked non-A-League club after they had a 2-0 loss to Pascoe, and they've been in ninth, so the highest-ranked non-A-League club, being ninth place at the moment, for a very long time, as long as we've been kind of doing these episodes, so... them falling down finally is a long time coming, and they're still in 10th, so the 10th best club in the country as per the TPO rankings. They're still above Wellington and Central Coast Mariners by a little bit of a margin, but the team that has overtaken them and moved up into 9th is Apia Leichhardt Tigers, and they've had a bit good run of wins as well, and have been up there for a long time. Over the weekend they beat Sydney FC's youth team 5-1, which they were heavy favourites in that one, so that's not a shock result at all. But now the highest-ranked club outside the A-League is Apia. A couple other ones there that I've picked up on. Pascoe win in that game that we just mentioned sees them move up 3 places to 24th, so they're now in the top 25. And dropping outside of the top 25 was Broadmeadow Magic from North New South Wales. They had a 3-0 win over the weekend over Western Workers, I believe it was, but despite that win, it wasn't enough, as Pascoe win was so unexpected that they've jumped over them. A couple other ones, Avondale have fallen further. They've had 2 losses now in 2 weeks, and this one was actually quite a big surprise and a big goal difference, or goal margin. It was a 5-1 loss to Bulleen Lions, and Bulleen Lions, bottom of the table at the time, so didn't expect that, and so Avondale's fallen 4 spots down to 21st. And just a couple of things that I've picked out that might be of interest to some, and that's that the highest ranked, we just mentioned Apia being the highest ranked Tier 2 side in the country right now. Highest ranked Tier 3 side at the moment is Peninsula Power from Queensland, who are 36th in the country. The highest ranked Tier 4 side is Geelong from the Victorian State League 1 Northwest, and they are 84th in the country. Tier 5, we're going down to Berwick City, also from Victoria and in the State League 2 Southeast, and they are ranked 180th. And then finally, the highest ranked, I'm calling it a regional Premier League club, so basically any of those leagues that aren't directly connected to the others, and that is Bulli from the Illawarra Premier League in 75th. So, cool. Yeah, there's your quick rankings update.
Well, thanks, Jake. Appreciate that. And okay, on to the next part of the show. So tonight we're talking predicted leagues. We've done this once or twice on this show before. Now that was towards maybe after 5 or 6 rounds in a few leagues. Now we're getting to the other end. There's only 5 for some of these leagues. Only 5-6 games left before finals, which seems crazy, Jake. I can't believe we're there already to that point. To be talking finals footy seems just absolutely insane. So I think we've got 3 leagues, New South Wales, what else we got, Jake, here? South Australia and the ACT. I haven't even looked, I believe you've prepared something here, Jake. I have not even run my eyes over it, to be honest. So why don't you take it away? We'll just hit it casually, and then if I've got any questions, or if you've got any questions for me, just let me know.
Sounds like a plan. Cool. So, as you said, I've picked the 3 leagues that are closest to finishing. New South Wales, 5 rounds left until the end of the season there, and what we've done, we touched on this before, but I'll just give a very quick explanation. So what we do is we take the TPO rankings for each of the clubs in the league, we take the remaining fixtures, so the last 5 games for each club, and using the TPO rankings, we do some predictions about the game, we simulate the result for each of the games each weekend, and then we do that 10,000 times. So it's lots and lots and lots of simulated games or results to tell us which team, or the probabilities of each team finishing a certain place on the ladder by the
10,000
end of the
times.
season.
That's a lot of times, Jack.
Yes, thankfully it is not a manual process. I just
You don't have to push 10,000 buttons, do you?
no. So thankfully I just hit go and walk away for a little while. So the numbers we're about to talk about are based on that 10,000 times of simulated results. So I thought what we'd do is just focus on the top end of each of these leagues and who kind of the clubs that are in contention for the premiership in each of them and what our simulations give them as a probability of winning or a chance of winning. So New South Wales, there's only 2 clubs that our simulations say are in with a chance, and looking at the table, I think that's probably looking, or most would agree with us, and that's Apia, Leichhardt and Sydney Olympic, who are currently 1st and 2nd in New South Wales. The 2 teams below them are in 3rd, Sydney United, and 4th, Blacktown City. They're Sydney United are 6 points behind 2nd place, so with 5 games to go, it's a big ask. It's not impossible. I think out of those 10,000 times, we had 1.9% of those. Sydney United was able to get the win or get the results to win the premiership. But let's just focus on Apia and Sydney Olympic. So, Cody, what I thought I'd do is I'll give you the last 5 games, or the opponents in those 5 games for the 2 teams here that we're talking about.
Sounds good.
I'll tell you what the simulations say in terms of who's going to win the premiership, and then we'll see if you agree or what your thoughts are. So let's start with Sydney Olympic, because they're currently sitting in first place there. They're 1 point clear of Apia, both with 5 games left. So their run home, the 5 games, are against Rockdale City Suns, who are currently in 6th. They've got Sydney FC Youth Team, who are last, or 12th place. Sutherland Sharks, who are in 8th, Wollongong Olympic in 11th, and their toughest opponent is in the final round, which is Sydney United, who are in 3rd. Going through Apia's run home, there's 3 of those same clubs. So you've got Sutherland, Wollongong, Wolves, and Sydney United are the 3 teams that they also need to play. And then the other 2 are Bonnyrigg White Eagles, who are in 11th, and Hakoah in 9th. So again, they've got Sydney United as their toughest opponent.
Yep.
So based on the TPO rankings, like we just mentioned, Apia, the highest ranked club in New South Wales, and based on the last 5 games, we're saying that about 3/4 of the simulations have Apia coming out on top, and 1/4 about that Sydney Olympic. So Apia favourites. So despite being 1 point behind on the table right now. So what do you reckon, Cody?
That's
what would you say?
I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be bloody close and interesting. It is interesting that out of the 5 games, they've got 3 of the same opponents, and then what are the other ones? So Sydney Olympic might just have a slightly easier run, although Rockdale's no easy game. Sydney FC, bottom of the table, you'd expect them to win that. Apia just beating Sydney FC. It's going to be close and interesting to follow. I'll just leave it at that. And I wouldn't rule Blacktown City out yet. I reckon if they can, I don't know who they've got in the final weeks, but if they can get 1 or 2, if they can win the next 2 games and Apia Olympics start to drop just a point or 2 here and there, it might come down to a really close finish. So I wouldn't completely rule Blacktown out, but I'd probably agree with the simulations and say I think Apia will just get there, but it's going to be interesting. So Jake, we've got South Australia next?
We do. So we'll do the same thing here, and there's probably 3 clubs here in contention. So, and that's based on the current ladder. So at the moment, the way that the ladder looks in South Australia, with again 5 games to go here, is Campbelltown City on top with 41 points, MetroStars in second on 39, and Adelaide City on 37. So there's a 2-point gap between each of those clubs. Adelaide City, I'll do it in reverse order now. I'll give you the percentages up front, and then I'll give you the run home. So Adelaide City given a 13.5% chance of winning, or in terms of the probabilities of the simulations. MetroStars are coming out on top 21% of the time, and Campbelltown City are winning the league 75% of the time. So 3/4 of the simulations that we've run say that Campbelltown will win the league, despite only being 2 points clear. And I'll give you the run home the last 5 games, because to me, I don't know, it doesn't seem as clear cut as that to me, but Campbelltown will play Adelaide United, who are in 5th, Adelaide Comets in 4th, West Adelaide in 9th, Sturt Lions in 12th, and Adelaide Olympic in 6th. So probably a good range there, but they've got, as I said, the teams 4th, 5th and 6th, so no easy beats. And MetroStars also play Adelaide Comets in 4th, but then they play South Adelaide in 7th, Para Hills in 8th, Croydon Kings in 10th. But here's the really interesting one, and that's Adelaide City in 3rd. So MetroStars and Adelaide City, we just mentioned they're the two in contention here, or who will challenge Campbelltown, and they play each other. So I think that game, which is looking like it's the last game of the round, could be a very important one. And just finally, Adelaide City, they play Sturt Lions, Croydon Kings, Adelaide Comets, Para Hills, and MetroStars, as I mentioned. So, what do you think, Cody? Where would your bet lie if you had to put it down?
100% Campbelltown, Jake. You know they're my favourite team.
They're your team for now?
They're my 2018 team of the year.
Fair enough.
It's interesting, though, they all play Adelaide Comets in 4th, so I guess that's why Adelaide Comets aren't really given a decent chance of getting the premiership there. They've got to play the 3 teams above them in their run home, so that's a bloody big ask for those guys. But they might have a big say here in who ends up with the premiership.
They are in a very interesting position because they're, like I said, they're 8 points behind Campbelltown City out in front with 5 games to go, so probably too big an ask. But yeah, I hadn't thought about it like that. As you say, they're going to have a very big say in who comes out on top.
Oh, that's exciting. I like this end of the season stuff. This is cool. All right, so we've got one more, and that's the ACT, Jake.
Yep, so the ACT has 6 rounds left, but they have a bye, given they've got an odd number of teams. They've got 9, so some of these clubs have different number of games left.
Sure.
The way that the ladder sits right now is Canberra Olympic are out in front, Canberra FC are in 2nd, and Tuggeranong are in 3rd. But according to the simulations, there's only the 2 teams in it, and that's Canberra Olympic and Canberra FC. The numbers come out that about 3/4 of the time Canberra Olympic win in our simulations, and Canberra FC win about 1/4. So Canberra Olympic being the favourites, currently 1st place. Now, just quickly giving you the rundown or the run home. Canberra Olympic will play Belconnen, who are in 5th. Tuggeranong, who we just mentioned, are in 3rd. Riverina Rhinos in 8th out of 9 teams. Gungahlin United in 4th. Cooma in 6th. And the big one is that they will also play Canberra FC. So the 2 teams who are competing with each other here for the title, as far as we're seeing it, actually have a game against each other. So, and I guess the other thing is I've just mentioned 6 games that they still have remaining. It's only a 9-team league, so they actually play most of the teams one more time. But I think that game between Olympic and FC is going to be the big one.
Is that at the end of the year, Jake? Did you put that last season?
I'll double check. It's actually a catch-up game, so it was interestingly a round 1 game, which I actually don't know the reason, but it never was going ahead in that round 1 or week 1, so they always had it delayed or postponed. So I think it is one of the last ones of the season, or towards the end anyway. So that's the one that you want to keep an eye on. But probably hard to argue with those ones, Cody. I don't know if you're going to.
No, I'll just leave it there, I think. It's going to be interesting, though. Yeah, we thought Tuggeranong would be in there. Then they've gone and lost a couple games in the last couple of weeks. So it's really is down to those 2 teams, unless Tuggeranong can literally win every game of the year left. But yeah.
Right. The other thing that I thought was interesting out of this, and again, we've only looked at 3 of these leagues, but the ACT is the only one where the title contenders, or at least the 2 favourites, play each other in the last few rounds. So New South Wales and South Australia, I mean, like I said, South Australia 2nd and 3rd will play each other, but what that, I guess, tells us is that it's going to come down to consistency and getting the points that they're expected to get against the other teams. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
There you go.
And guys who are watching, if you enjoy this sort of stuff and you want to see another league, so we've obviously got, we cover all the states or around the country. So if you want to see those in the upcoming weeks as they draw closer to the end of the year, let us know, and we can certainly schedule that in, even if it's maybe a bit of a lower league that we don't often, one of the 2nd tier or 3rd tier leagues, we can maybe schedule that in if you ask very nicely. Now, Jake, we've got part 3, so the final segment of the show. We're back to it now. Now the FFA Cup draw and all that stuff is out of the way, where we are previewing a bunch of games. You've got 2, I've got 3. I'll run through mine and I'll let you finish. So... Cool. I go to Queensland, and this is a league I'm really looking forward to previewing in a few weeks' time, Jake, doing the same predicted leagues, because the 4 teams up the top are separated by 1 point. It's a very interesting league. Moreton Bay and Western Pride, so these teams are equal on points. Western Pride have the better goal difference, and and also have that one game in hand as well. There's 7 games to go in this season, so this is massive. This is what are we looking at? We're looking at 4th hosting 2nd, but equal on points, as I said. So it's going to be a very tight game. Now we have Moreton Bay as favourites. They're ranked in TPO rankings at 28th. Western Pride are at 35th, and Moreton Bay are at home. So we've got them down as slight favourites, but it is very close. And I have a feeling the supporters will be voting for Western Pride on this, but we shall see when I put it up on Instagram stories on Wednesday evening. Now, my next game is in South Australia, and this is one of these games we briefly touched on in the previous segment. And so this is Adelaide Comets hosting MetroStars. So MetroStars, as we mentioned, are in 2nd. Comets are in 4th with only 5 games. This obviously has big implications on that predicted league tables we were just running through, Jake. And Adelaide Comets at home, they're ranked 25th on the rankings. MetroStars 16th. MetroStars go in slight favourites because of that higher ranking, although they are away from home. So if you look at the probabilities there, Adelaide Comets are 37.9%, MetroStars are 39.4%. So only just favourites. So you'll chalk that up as TPO rankings. We're back in MetroStars. I will be interested to see how the supporters go on this. I picked this game because I thought it would be close, and I hope the supporters might vote against us to keep things interesting. And my final game is in Western Australia, and one of these leagues will probably be doing the predicted league tables for in the coming weeks. So it is Bayswater City hosting Perth Glory youth team. So Perth Glory sitting top of the table. And Jake, you mentioned that this would be the first A-League youth team that would ever, I think, win the NPL Premiership. If they go on to win. Now, I put this on Instagram, and I actually had someone come back and say, what about Newcastle Jets in 2014? So there's a little bit of a check for you, Jake.
You got me.
Fat check.
Sorry, Newcastle.
So it wouldn't be the first time, but it would be pretty cool if that can happen. Now, Bayswater are just 3 points behind in 3rd, so it's still a big clash here, and it could go a long way to determining what happens at the end of the year. We're actually, so Bayswater are ranked in 42nd, Perth Glory youth team, still playing catch-up. I believe if we went back and had a look, they're like one of the most improved teams in 2018. We'll probably do that segment again in the coming weeks. They're probably there at number 1, if not number 2 or 3. But they're only still ranked at 63rd. So Bayswater are pretty firm favourites here at home. So we'll be interested to see how you guys vote. You usually vote the way we do. So maybe
live a little, guys. Come on,
live a little. Take some advice from Jake and live a little, and vote for Perth Glory. All right, Jake, that's my 3 games. What do you got?
All right, so I'm going to South Australia, down to the State League 1, the 2nd tier there, and it's White City Woodville versus Adelaide Blue Eagles. They're 2 of the clubs, or they are the 2 favourite clubs as far as our kind of simulations. So an example of what we did before, but for this league, it has these 2 as the favourites to win the league and with it promotion into the NPL. So Adelaide Raiders, I think, will be another one that probably could throw their name or their hat in the ring for that, but we see them finishing in 3rd at the moment. So White City and Adelaide Blue Eagles, I think this is just one of those ones where it will determine, or it will have a very big impact on the rest of the season. So, and I wanted to dig down into some of the promotion relegation battles, and this one seemed like the most obvious to me. In terms of the probabilities, White City currently, and also the rankings at the moment, or the league ladder. So White City sitting in 3rd in the table, Adelaide Blue Eagles in 1st. In terms of the rankings, White City ranked 81st and Blue Eagles 51st. So despite White City being at home, they are 32% chance of winning according to our probabilities, and Adelaide Blue Eagles 47.7%. So we're predicting that Adelaide Blue Eagles will go on and win promotion, although White City are looking good as well and at home. My second one is Tasmania, and it's the top of the table clash down there, Launceston City and Devonport City, or Devonport Strikers. Probably not a lot that I need to say about this one. Top of the table, again, I mean, Tasmania's got, I don't have the number of rounds in front of me, but it's still got a little while to go, so it's maybe not as important given you've got a lot of time to recover.
Sure.
But Launceston did just lose over the weekend to South Hobart, and that reduced their gap. Currently in first, so they've reduced their gap to second to 3 points. Devonport City, if they get a win in this game, will go first. They've got the better goal difference / goals scored sort of numbers, so that'll guarantee that they go into first place. So looks a little bit one-sided if you look at the percentages. Devonport City ranked 66th in the country, Launceston ranked 142nd. So that means that Devonport City, we're giving a 57% chance of winning compared to Launceston's 23. I think this is probably one of those few cases that we've talked about before where a team's ranking is still trying to catch up with their results and their performances. So probably this is one of those ones that ignore the percentages as we're giving them and have a look at the form, the league table, and let us know what you think.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, thanks, Jake. That's this week's show. Nice and reasonably quick. That's good. So 5 games, and they'll be up on Instagram stories. Probably, if you're watching this, I believe they will be up, if not very, very soon. Usually Wednesday night by 7 o'clock at the latest, they will be up, and you'll have 24 hours to go and vote. And you should be able to follow me or following us on Instagram anyway. I've been putting a lot of effort into the stories and keeping you up to date with the results and tables. So go and bloody watch it, will you? Otherwise, thanks for joining us. Next week, I'm not sure what we'll be covering yet. We'll figure that out in the days to come. Again, if you've got any questions, comments, as always, just leave them in the comments below or send us a message. We are pretty receptive. Jake, you got any final thoughts or feelings?
No, I got nothing.
That's
a wrap.
That's a wrap. Well, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. See you, Jake.
Bye. See ya.